Welcome to Inspiring Nations with Sonia Keeve podcast show. Question: where do you draw your inspiration? Join us as we feature women across the globe with incredible stories of how they inspire nations every day. Now, here is your host, Sonia Keeve.
Well, hello, everyone. And this is another exciting edition of Inspiring Nations. I am your host, Sonia Keeve, and I am excited to bring another amazing woman to the platform. Today, I have in the studio with me, Dr. Keitiaunna Howard. And let me tell you a little bit about her. She is the CEO of Loving Me Empowerment as both a leadership consultant and empowerment coach. She is also the founder of Pretty Brown Princess, which is a community organization for young girls of color ages 5 to 12. And she encourages them to love and embrace the skin that they're in. As a mother of 3, she affectionately has her children refer her as her heart, her soul, and their strength. And without further ado, I am excited to bring to you Dr. Keitiaunna Howard. Well, hello, superstar.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me today.
Yes, I am so excited to have you on this platform. And for those who don't know who you are, just share a little bit about yourself and who you serve.
Sure. So as she stated, I am Dr. Keitiaunna Howard. I usually refer to myself as Dr. K. Still getting used to that whole acronym. I just graduated with my doctorate in strategic leadership 3 weeks ago, I think now, maybe 4 weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's still fresh.
Yes.
But I currently reside in Columbus, Ohio with my 3 amazing children who I refer to as my heart, my soul, and my strength. My oldest just graduated from high school 2 weeks ago, so he graduated the week after I did.
Wow.
So it's been a crazy past 4 weeks. It's been kind of crazy. And then my daughter, my princess, is an 8-year-old. And then my baby will be 2 at the end of July. So I stay pretty busy with the 3 of them, of course, still working full time, and then also doing coaching and consulting and writing and things like that. And we are all getting ready to have an amazing shift. We are actually moving from Columbus, Ohio to Charlotte at the end of July. Yes. So a whole lot going on all at one time, but I'm super, super excited just about everything that's coming. Got a release of a book coming up next month, just like so many different things just really going on that we're really excited about.
Well, my, you certainly have a lot going on your table. And I really appreciate the fact that you work full time, as you stated, and you're working your business. And so for many of our parallelpreneurs out there who you got that full-time corporate job, but hey, you got to have that side hustle until it works for you. How on earth do you manage to do it all?
I always tell people, 1, but by the grace of God. 2, because I'm a little bit crazy. But ultimately, it really comes down to time management and priorities. And I do a lot for myself in terms of, I'm a big list maker. I've got a whiteboard actually on my bedroom wall that with a bunch of different columns and a bunch of different ideas and things that I need to get accomplished. And I really start to write things down and mark those things off the list. I live by my Google Calendar. Everybody in the family has a color code. And so that way I can see at a glance who's going where and all that kind of stuff. But it really comes down to time management and just, those proper priorities and making sure that my children know that they come first. Yeah. While that may mean sometimes that I've got other things to do, but making sure that nothing that I do for my business overshadows my responsibility as mom.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about this business. You are the CEO of Loving Me Empowerment. Tell us a little bit about that business and how you even came to get it started. So
Loving Me Empowerment really fell in my lap in many ways. I was kind of in those type of situations where people will call and say, hey, do you know about such and such? Or, hey, I've been thinking about such and such and so. Or for my oldest, for example, I was the first in my circle of friends to have a child.
Okay.
And so by the time my friends started having children, they would call me and ask me for advice about, children, because mine was 5 or 6 or 7 at that time. And really it's just come from just my leadership skills and my ability to prioritize things. And a lot of the work that I do with Love Me Empowerment is either coaching on time management, being accountable, helping people to discover their dreams and then figure out steps to make those dreams a reality for their lives. So maybe they think they want to open a business, or maybe they think they want to go back to school, or maybe they've got 5,000 things that they want to do, but they aren't quite sure where to even start. And then the other side to Love Me Empowerment is really on an empowerment side. So I do a lot of work with women, a lot of work with mothers, just really encouraging and embracing women and helping them to recognize that, especially in the single mother situation, your situations and choices that you've made in the past don't necessarily have to dictate your future.
Yes.
I'm doing a lot of work with Women Rock, bridging the gender wage gap. So doing a lot of work, beginning to do a lot of work with women, with helping them to recognize that as much as we may bust our behinds in school, getting our education and making sure that we've got all the stuff on our resume, unfortunately, regardless of what we're bringing to the table, there's still a huge disconnect between what we're getting paid and what our male counterparts are getting paid. And that's happening for women regardless of whether they're white, Black, Latina, just anything. We're all facing it. And so this newest book is really teaching us as women through the acronym of ROCK, how to begin to bridge that gap for ourselves.
Wow. And I have to tell you, it is so important, especially in this day and time, because I know many women, especially those who are educated and have taken the time to go back to school as an adult learner, because I've done it. So I know the sacrifice it took to get to that place. So how do you encourage a woman who, they've got all the degrees, but they're still getting hitting that wall where some people are still telling them it's not enough?
So I recently have even begun finding myself in that same situation again. I just completed my doctorate, and I said I did not want to have another degree and not work in my field, not actually utilize it, not make the money to pay back Sally Mae.
Hello.
Sally Mae's coming and knocking. And so what I've done here recently is I actually reached out to the career services department at my school where I've graduated from. They're there for a purpose. I've just never thought to use them. Don't know why, but never did. And so I met with one of the ladies today, and she reviewed my resume and reviewed my cover letter. And she's helping me to tweak those things and providing me with feedback to help me to make sure that I'm putting my best foot forward. Because sometimes we get in a situation where now we've got all this education, but we still don't have the experience that they're looking for. Or we know we can do the work. If we do it with our eyes shut tight, but the resume doesn't show that we can. And so by beginning to align myself with people where this is their arena, where they thrive, I think that will help me and also help other women. So if you're a recent graduate, or even if you're not a recent graduate, there are a lot of services that are offered to you as an alumni, and that career coaching, career services may be one of those things. And also beginning to utilize my network. As I look for new positions, one of the first things I do is reach out to some of my friends who are already in Charlotte and say, hey, do you know anybody that works at such and such and so? Because I'm looking for a job there. And I want to know, one, how much does it really pay? Because lots of times they aren't telling that to the outside either. So I want somebody to go into the intranet site and see, is it worth my while? Yes. And then two, I would like for that person to put in a referral for me to help to open the door. We've been saying for years, it's not what you know, but it's who you know. And we're now right back in that situation where it's all about networking and connections. So making those connections, taking the time to build your network so that somebody happens to see a job come across their screen at work and they think, oh, you know what? Keitiaunna would be great for that. Or so-and-so would be great for that. Let me give them a call. One of my friends, in a Facebook group that I'm a part of has sent me several job opportunities. She's applying for jobs herself.
Okay.
And as she's seeing things that sound like something that I would be interested in, she's shooting it my way and vice versa. So you just never know by opening up your mouth. A closed mouth won't get fed. Open up your mouth and let people know that you're looking. And that's half the battle right there.
And you didn't know that you guys were going to get coaching right here on Inspiring Nations with Sonia Keeve. But let me just reiterate some really important points that you did say. A part of networking is truly about making the connections, making and building relationships, step one. Because when you build those relationships, people will come back to you, as you said, and if they see a job out there for you and think maybe that would be good for you, they're going to reach back out to you because you made that connection. 2, open your mouth. And I'm so glad you said that, because so many people in the job searching, they will just go on the job boards, but they'll never open their mouth to say to their circle, I'm looking for a job, especially when you're in a relocation situation and you're going to a new city and have no idea about the job market. So the fact that you are making those connections and speaking with people in the area, what's really happening. And then lastly, very importantly, going to the intranet versus the internet, because ladies and gentlemen, with the internet, you're only going to get the very basics, but it's those folks who are in those companies really know the skinny of it all and understand what is the real salary and if people are really looking. So thank you so much for sharing that. That was extremely important. And so now you're doing your empowerment coaching. I'm really interested to hear more about this Pretty Brown Princess. I first of all, I love the name. I love the name. I mean, when I read your bio, I just smiled because, you know, I think we all at some point feel like a pretty brown princess. Yes. And so how did that come about for you to create this organization?
So I started Pretty Brown Princess when my daughter was 2 and she's now 8. So we're about 6 years old now. Okay. And I realized, I'm like, man, every time I'm in the mirror, she's in the mirror. Every time I want to put on a skirt, she wants to put on a skirt. If my hair is in a ponytail, she wants her hair in a ponytail. Yeah. Like, this is crazy. Nobody told me about this with having a girl. But I realized that she was watching me. Yeah. And then I had either friends or associates who had daughters, and I was hearing them. My daughter was 2 at the time, but their daughters would have been in like elementary school. Mm-hmm. And I was hearing some of the things that their daughters were going through. Oh, I'm fat. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm too skinny. Oh, I don't like my hair. My hair is too curly. My hair is too straight. My this, my that. And I thought about when I was in elementary school, I never thought I was fat. Mm-mm. I didn't care about if I was too skinny. I mean, people might have talked about, you know, the complexion of my skin being dark skin and things like that. But outside of that, these things were furthest from my imagination. Mm-hmm. And so I started Pretty Brown Princess because I wanted our girls to learn, especially our girls of color, to embrace who they are. It doesn't matter if you're big or small, if you're tall or short, if your hair is curly or straight, if you wear weave, if you wear braids, if you have glasses, if you have braces, it doesn't matter. We are all beautiful. And I feel that there's a disconnect with our girls, and it starts when they're young. And then it continues as they hit those preteen and those teen years, and then they end up as women, and we see them as women doing anything and everything because of their low self-esteem. And so I started Pretty Brown Princess to try to put that back in. And I look at my daughter now as she gets ready to go to 3rd grade. And when she started kindergarten, something happened when she started kindergarten. And this strong, assertive, full of, she had a wonderful sense of self-esteem leading up to that point. And she entered kindergarten, and I won't say it's just because we're in the suburbs or whatever the case may be, but she lost it all. And she began to question who she was. And I wish God had made me a different color, and maybe God made a mistake, and all this kind of thing. And I realized that while I was going through a lot with finishing school and having the baby and things like that, and I had not been able to do as much with Pretty Brown Princess as I had in the years prior,
Right.
it just reminded me that I needed to pick it back up again. So I'm really, really excited because, as I said, I'm here here in Columbus, Ohio,
Right.
and getting ready to relocate. But one of my amazing friends is going to take over our chapter here in Columbus, and I'm super excited because once I get settled in Charlotte, I'm going to be starting a chapter in Charlotte. And that's something I've always had a desire, is to actually start what I like to call families. I don't like to call them chapters,
Right.
but Pretty Brown Princess families, and really begin to make a difference in the lives of our girls of color. I can remember probably in like our third year of Pretty Brown Princess, we had a large amount of girls who were either biracial, or we even had a young lady who was adopted. She was from, I want to say Somalia, but I could be incorrect. But she was adopted by a white family.
Okay.
And these Caucasian women wanted to make sure that their brown girls felt amazing about who they were. They didn't want their girls comparing themselves to their moms. So they brought them to this organization to be around like-minded women. We do a career day for our girls where we ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we know with girls ages 5 to 12, that changes week by week.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But whatever they say when I ask them, I find women of color who are operating in those fields and bring them in, because I firmly believe that if you see somebody who looks like you doing that thing, then that's one of the biggest things about former President Obama. Whether you believe that he was a good president or not, seeing that man of color in that office has opened the eyes of our little boys to say, oh man, I could be president too one day.
Yes.
And that's what I love. I tell people all the time, Pretty Brown Princess is my favorite Saturday of the month. Just being with the girls is it's amazing.
Man, and I am so proud to know that you're doing this kind of work, because I too have a daughter. I actually have two. And my oldest, she's the one that I didn't birth, but I loved her as my own. And my other daughter, she will actually be 17 in June, the 19th, actually. So, and I remember having that conversation with her in elementary school, and telling her the same thing about that you're beautiful. And one of the things that as a little girl, when I was growing up, my grandmother used to always have the phrase, you are beautiful because God don't make no junk. That's what she used to tell me. And I remember that as a little girl, and I've always kept that even as I got older and had kids of my own. And I used to tell that to my kids too, that you are beautiful just the way you are. You know, and I have a son who has red hair and green eyes. And so, you know, I tell him, you know, because kids will ask, you know, are you adopted? You know, all these crazy questions. And they're like, no, he's not. And, you know, but it's because of what society has placed of what they identify as beautiful. So, you know, so I know this work for you is something that every city needs to have. And so it is my hope that my listeners, that you hear this and you partner with her and you get in the game, because I think that's where community begins, with everyone in each community getting together to change the narrative of what we're seeing on TV and identifying that that's not what we consider beauty. It's what's inside, because that's what develops that self-esteem. So kudos to you. Kudos to you. So now you've got this business, and then you've got the Pretty Brown Princess. Now, a little birdie told me that you co-authored an anthology entitled Unchain Me Mama.
Yes.
And
yes.
Please tell us what that anthology was about. How did you even become a part of that?
So Unchain Me Mama was an amazing experience. And I met Audra. It was a post on Facebook.
Okay.
In one of the Facebook groups. She said, you know, I'm looking for women who are willing to share their story. And my mother and I had an amazing relationship as I was growing up. We were thick as thieves.
Yeah.
And as I grew up and, as adults, we began making decisions and things like that. And our parents don't always agree with them.
Yes.
And that thick as thieves began to separate drastically. And even in writing my chapter in the book, at the point that I wrote it, it was a very hard time in our relationship. And with putting it out there, it was in some ways very therapeutic for myself.
Right.
But the little girl in me was still afraid of how my mom would feel about me telling the world about our business. And so I wrote it, and I think it was probably the day before it was supposed to be submitted to the editor. I told her, I said, I'm going to send you something via email. I was like, just read it when you get a chance. And I had come to terms with, if this ends our relationship, it ends our relationship. It is what it is. But I knew that I had to get it out for myself, and I had to share it with others, because a lot of times as people, we hear about the negative parts of our relationships with our fathers.
Right.
But you don't hear a lot about negative relationships with moms, because moms are always there.
Yeah.
And while moms are always there, those relationships are not always that great.
Yeah.
And I sent the email, and she usually never reads her emails. And I was just like, hey, she'll read it one day.
Right.
Oh, well. And probably about half hour, 45 minutes later, she called me, and she was like, I get it. Like, I understand. And I'm thinking, I did not write anything profound. I didn't write anything that I had not said before. Like, I don't know what it was about seeing it that made it click. And so writing and being an author in Unchain Me Mama really was the beginning of the healing to our relationship. Now, I'll be honest and transparent. I thought that meant, hey, we're on the up and up and everything is great and we're about to go back to the way things were. And that was not.
No.
Not at all. And I almost feel in some ways it was harder to deal with the issues that we still faced after writing the book than it was before, because now I'm like, wait, you said you get it. I told one of my girlfriends, I said, I'm going to Home Depot and buying like some chains for a link fence and just going to drop them off on her doorstep. Because I'm like, you're not going to chain me up again, lady.
Yeah.
And so it's been a very circular process where there's days where like, it's great. And I'm like, oh yes, I'm sure for both of us, like we're back. And there's days like, I can't stand you. Like I'm out, I'm done.
Yeah.
But I think in writing the book and sharing how I felt and how her actions impacted me and all that kind of stuff, it really has helped, if for no other reason, us to decide like, okay, this is rough and this is hard, but we're going to try to figure this out. So within, I'd probably say 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, we started going to family counseling, because with the move, it was one of those kind of things where I was like, you know what? I'm out. Right. I'm done.
Yeah.
Let me wash my hands of you. It is what it is. Nice knowing you. Thanks for life.
Yeah.
But I knew that I didn't want to leave on that type of a note.
Yeah.
I didn't want that relationship for myself, for my mother. I didn't want that relationship for my children and their grandmother. And so even in going to counseling, there's been some days where life was, where the sessions went really well. And there's been a session where I was like, you know what? I don't have to do this at all. Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm learning. It's truly still a process. It's not a Band-Aid. It's not a one size fits all fix. It's truly, I can think about like the Bible talks about like dying daily. Like it's truly a daily thing. Like every day it's like, yesterday was great.
Yeah.
We are again. What are we going to do?
Yes.
But I'm so glad. It was an amazing experience being involved with Audra and the other 7 ladies that wrote. We had an amazing book launch, and it was an awesome experience because my mom was the only mom who came, and she almost kind of was like standing in the gap as mom for
everybody. Yeah. And
it gave her a chance to begin to share, her platform of how she felt in the situation. So it was really healing. Like I said, it really began to start that healing process of just being honest with the fact that as women, we love our moms to death, to life. But sometimes those women, sometimes we as daughters, it's not as great. And I think that's really what I love, to just be able to be transparent and honest, and growing to the point where I can be honest about some of the stuff that I've experienced in life and use that, as a testimony, and use that to help other people. So often we take our junk, and whether we're over it or not, we sweep it underneath the carpet. And then everybody, especially as women, we feel like we're going through these things by ourselves. But if we would be willing to be honest and share, if for no other reason, women are like, oh, shoot, somebody else is going through this mess just like I am. And that's really what it's all about.
And for my listeners, I hope that you heard that part of the anthology for her was the vulnerability piece, because I too experienced the same thing. I was a first-time published author in an anthology, and those same emotions about what do you share, what is going to be my truth. But I think, and you made the point, when you're just willing to be open enough and honest enough, that's really where the healing can begin, because you're coming from a place to say, this is what happened. This is what I experienced. No, it wasn't always pretty, but I got through it. And I may be going through therapy, because I think also, especially in the African-American community, to talk about therapy and seeing a therapist is like something taboo. Like I can't discuss it, but it's real. And especially with mothers and daughters, because that relationship, and I can totally understand, because we see, as little girls, we see our mothers as our heroes, as the women we hope to aspire to be when we become adults. But it becomes going through those transitions, especially when you become, now you're a mother, and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know how to raise your kids. And then, you're trying to be, this grown up person, but they keep seeing you as that little girl, and you're like, hello. So, so I love that you were a part of that project. And I love that your mother and yourself, that you are on the road to healing. Because sometimes when we do, it's what we don't say sometimes that seems to be the most powerful. So I really applaud you for being a part of that project. And so for our listeners, because I definitely want them to be able to connect with you, how can they get in touch with you?
So if you remember Loving Me Empowerment, you can find me practically everywhere. So my website is lovingmeempowerment.com. Facebook page is Loving Me Empowerment. What else? Let's see. Email is admin@lovingmeempowerment.com. So if you can remember Loving Me Empowerment, you can find me anywhere. I love just to connect with men and women, to hear their thoughts and stories and things that they're going through. Even if it's, whether it's you're looking for somebody who can help you in terms of coaching, or whether you're interested in one of the books that I've written, or whether you just want to say, hey, I heard you on the show and I think what you're doing is amazing, or I really identified with what you're going through, I would love to hear from you all.
Absolutely. So you heard those amazing connection points. Remember, Loving Me Empowerment, and you can find Dr. Keitiaunna Howard. So what is on the horizon next? I mean, Lord, do you have any more room to do new things?
It doesn't seem like I do, but I do have a book that is releasing. My release event is actually going to be July 14th. And so that's Women Rock, Bridging the Gender Wage Gap. And it's so funny because everybody said, are you going to do a graduation party? Are you going to do a going away party? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? And so I'm really combining it all into one. I said, what better way to celebrate my graduation than to release a book that was birthed as a part of my journey and getting my doctorate. So I'm really excited about that. other than that, just the move to Charlotte, I'm super excited about that. Ready for warm weather and just, I've lived in Columbus. I've lived in Ohio all my life. So I'm excited about the warm weather and just the newness and just that experience. So those are the things I have on the horizon right now. Definitely starting that Pretty Brown Princess chapter in Charlotte. So if you're in Charlotte and you have a young girl, ages 5 to 12, please reach out to me and let me know. If you're in Charlotte and you know of places where we could meet on a monthly basis or whatever the case may be, I am looking to connect with like-minded women and men in the Charlotte area. If you're interested in starting a Pretty Brown Princess family in your area, we can connect as well. So those are things on the horizon for me right now.
Well, that is amazing. And I just cannot wait. And I will tell you will absolutely love Charlotte. We'll talk about that after the show. Yeah. But before I let you go, because truly I could just talk with you all day. I mean, just you're so amazing. And that's why I love this show, because I get to just meet incredible women like yourself who are truly inspiring women every day, both young and old. So thank you again for coming. But before I let you go, this is something that I always do with all of my guests. I'm going to give you 3 words, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind when you hear them. The first word is faith.
First thing that comes to my mind with faith is my foundation. When I started my businesses and things like that as a Christian woman, people always ask me, is this a Christian business? And I say, no, it's not a Christian business, because I believe that God can use me to touch anybody, regardless of your beliefs.
Yes.
But my businesses are built upon Christian principles and values. Yes. So there are certain things that I will not do or will not say. But I firmly believe that, and I could go all day long to talk about that faith walk, just sharing the story of what I always call my hashtag, the road to becoming Dr. Howard. And, having my youngest son in my 3rd year of that process was a huge faith walk for a whole nother conversation. But yeah, definitely foundation and the reason why I am where I am.
The next word is love.
When I think of love, I think about family. I guess in other ways, they are also my foundation. My children are the reason why I do what I do. I think about working full time and being a single mom and having these businesses and being in school and all of those kind of things. And I do all of those things because I'm leaving no room for excuses for my children. There's no reason why you cannot reach whatever your heart's desire is. You don't have to follow a mom's footsteps. You don't have to get your doctorate. Whatever your passion and your purpose is, there's no reason why my children should be able to say that they don't know what that is, because they could have sat at my feet and got that information. So family, they are my reason why.
And the last word, inspiration.
When I think of inspired, I've had women that, I saw someone shared your post and you were such an inspiration. I'm like, really? That was like, wow, I wasn't even trying. You just never know whose life you can touch just by being you.
Well, Dr. Keitiaunna Howard, it was truly my pleasure to have you on my show today. And I hope that for all my listeners, definitely connect with her on the connection points she shared earlier in the show. And I would love to have you back on the show as you continue in your journey and your move and the pretty, the Pretty Brown Princess. Yes. And I'm just loving everything that you're doing, and just keep doing it because it is truly needed. So Dr. Keitiaunna Howard, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Have a great night.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Inspiring Nations with Sonia Keeve. I challenge each of you to perform one simple act of kindness and pass it forward. For more information on how you can be a guest on our show, visit www.soniakeeve.com. We hope to see you next time.